That's it. That's the conference games done. We now know who's going to be in Super Bowl 60. We had the Broncos against the Pats in the snowball, which was a punt-heavy grind of a game. And we had the LA Rams against the Seattle Seahawks in a thriller. That's the game we're going to cover first. But before we do, please do me a massive favor and hit the subscribe button at the bottom of your screen, especially if you're a returning viewer. It means you like what you're seeing, but you're not hitting subscribe. Why aren't you hitting subscribe? Just hit subscribe. It will really help me out and it will really help me promote this great game here in the UK. Now let's get on with the video. This was the third meeting between the Rams and the Seahawks. They were 1-1 and it was a point that separated them in both of those games. And it was a thriller that was won by Seattle by 31 points to 27. Sam Darnold proving all his critics wrong. He scored 343 throwing yards and 3 throwing touchdowns. I'm starting to think that oblique injury wasn't even a thing. You know, they keep talking about it. I didn't notice it last week. I certainly didn't notice it this week. He had a great game and he connected once again with JSN, who scored 153 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and he was unplayable. Every time they threw the ball to him, I had no doubt that he was going to catch it. He caught it from absolutely everywhere. And one of those catches being a great touchdown reception. They had to play well because Stafford, who scored 374 throwing yards, connected really well with Puka Nacua and Davante Adams later on in the game. Nacua with 165 receiving yards and a touchdown of his own. This game was end-to-end. There were small margins that ended up winning them the game. And I think Walker at the beginning of the match had a really solid first quarter that ended in a touchdown that opened up the game, allowing Darnold and JSN to connect later on. In the end, the game was ultimately decided by a 4th down stoppage in the Rams' last meaningful drive. Devon Witherspoon breaking up a couple of passes and ultimately ending the Rams' chances of victory. Seattle move forward. They go to the Super Bowl. This is their 4th Super Bowl in their franchise history. And you couldn't have got a different game in the AFC. The Pats against the Broncos. There wasn't a great deal to report here. It was a grind. Big news, of course, is that Jarrett Stidham had stepped in for Bo Nix, who had broken his ankle in the divisional round. He started really well. He looked relaxed. He was throwing well. He threw a touchdown, which seemed to really relax him. And then the weather changed, and then he really struggled. But to be fair to him, everyone struggled. Drake Maye's numbers weren't exactly eye-watering. He had 85 throwing yards, but some of his throws were really important, especially in the snow. A couple of times he landed on his mark when it was really important to get a first down. He also ran for 65 yards and scored the Pats' only touchdown. So he was pretty instrumental in the victory today. Whereas with Stidham, when the snow came, it changed for him completely. He ended up throwing an interception. Can you blame him in these conditions? Maybe not, but those small margins were ultimately the difference in the game. That and, of course, Leonard Taylor, who was brought up from the practice squad, blocking the field goal that would have taken this game to a tie and maybe even to overtime. Then you never know what could happen. So very small margins, but the Patriots get to another Super Bowl. Can they make it another Super Bowl victory against Seattle, who must be going into this game as the favourites, regardless of how good Drake Maye and the Patriots have been? And a fun stat is that no one has won a conference game with 10 or less points since the 1979 LA Rams. So we've got 2 weeks now until the Super Bowl. The teams are going to be preparing their game plan, getting their players fit and healthy for the game. I can't wait. I hope you enjoyed the conference matches, and I hope you're looking forward to the Super Bowl as well. But what do I know? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe.